So, but the other piece that I think is very important in New York is that we do have funding available. Now, what is this funding? It's a very, very competitive process. It is not easy to get funded. But there is some, a pot of money there. What we do there is we write proposals. First of all, the city decides, okay, we want these services or these services, whatever services they feel are needed. They put out a request for proposals. We propose, and that's like hundreds of other organizations all proposing. It's a very selective, very competitive process, and very time-consuming and difficult. It's not easy at all. And then they decide whether this agency or that agency is best suited to provide those services, and then they fund you. Now, the other issue is that they don't just give you the money and say, okay, go do it. No, there's a lot of monitoring, there's a lot of auditing, a lot of oversight, and to make sure that these services are being provided properly, that they're professional, that there's no mismanagement, particularly of money. This is tax money, so you don't just go do whatever or put it in your pocket. It is very much monitored, which I appreciate a lot, because I don't like to see money being mismanaged. And I feel that when we get this funding, it's got to go to where it's supposed to go. And so their oversight, I think, is extremely important. So there are two programs that just were put in place this year, which I think are particularly important for us. One of them is through an agency called the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. This is a program particularly for immigrants, services for immigrant families, and there are different pieces to it, but the piece that we're working on is in the schools. What we're trying to do is, or what they wanted us to do, which I felt very strongly about, is to go into the schools, identify the children that were what they call ELL students, English language learners, and work with their parents and the students to help them understand the system, to help them participate in the education of their children, and become part of the system, go to all the teacher conferences, etc. And at the same time identify what kind of academic issues or problems the children were having and help them find services or whatever their needs were, become more parent-friendly to immigrant parents. The schools become more parent-friendly to immigrant parents, and also identify whatever other issues that are going on in the family that they may need help with. So this is being funded, and we did get a contract for that. And we're very excited about that. We're just starting that program. Because I feel very strongly that that is where it really starts. That is really, it's the children. We've got to work with the parents immediately they enter the country. We can't wait until the children grow up and have their children and have their children. We've got to start immediately. So to me, that was a very, very important program that I'm very excited about. Another part of the program is to provide legal services, but that's not our piece. Our piece is that we are case managers. We find the families, we identify the issues, we do an assessment of their needs with them. We don't enforce or impose anything. They agree to some of these services, and then we either provide the services or we find other organizations that can provide the services. But we also monitor making sure that they get the services, translate if we have to, and help them access those services. So that's sort of our role, but I think that that's a very important role, because what we do is we hire caseworkers who speak the language and really understand the culture and understand those families. Because those families are going to feel comfortable working with our caseworkers versus working with a government staff person. They're very fearful of government, and they don't feel that government has any inkling of what their issues are most of the time. So there's a divide. But when it's a friendly environment, a comfortable, secure environment, you're more likely to engage those families. So we work one-on-one with these families. We identify by family, and each one has different needs. So we assess their needs and we provide services accordingly. The other government programs that we're involved in, which I think is also very important, as you know, in America, child abuse or issues of child abuse are very, very important. And I'm sure it's all over. But we have very strict rules and regulations and laws about that. And very often, our immigrant families don't understand that discipline, what they consider discipline, is considered abuse in the United States. And they're therefore reported, and therefore they get into the system, and therefore they're in trouble all over again. And sometimes our children can be taken away and put into foster care. That's another big program that we have. Why? Because the city has realized that there are families out there who are coming from Middle East, from South Asia, from very traditional societies, where a lot of these are norms, basically, that don't understand and therefore are in trouble, but they don't know how to work with them. They don't know how to engage them, they don't know how to find them, they don't know how to provide the kind of services that they're needed. So we've now been contracted to do that. So all this to say that government has a role to play, a very important role to play. They don't have to provide the services. As a matter of fact, I think it's better if they don't provide direct services, but go to the organizations that can engage those families and knows the community, understands the community, and where the community is going to feel comfortable, where they are going to be unthreatened, so to speak. There isn't that threat of, oh, I'm going to get deported, God only knows where my name is going to end up on my computer or what, because they know that we are there to help them, to help strengthen the families, to help them adjust.